Okay, good morning everyone. Well, it's morning here, and the only people who will be seeing this are, of course, our replay viewers, so welcome. I'm hoping that when someone jumps on, they let me know I am definitely live, so I'm not just talking to myself here. So, let me bring my notes up. Okay, here we go. Okay, so the first thing that I wanted to say, replay people. Let me know you're on replay. Just pop replay in the comments below. That helps me know how our time zones are working and how I could adjust things to make it work better for everyone. Okay, I am going to jump straight in because, as everyone knows, I pack so much into these trainings and I don't want to go on forever, so I'm going to try not to ramble and just teach this morning. As always, everything is interactive here, so if you have a question, I do in theory have all the comments coming up beside me, so hopefully that all works. I haven't done a Facebook Live for a little while and technology's changed as usual, but it should all be working. I will happily sidetrack if people have got questions. It's really interactive. For the replay people, know that I do check the comments afterwards, and I will reply to them. So go ahead as you're watching the replay over the next day or two, comment away if you've got a question or if there's an aha you want to share. I love to hear what lands for people, what they're finding interesting. Okay, I think that's all the housekeeping that I wanted to talk about. Oh, you will notice in the description for this live stream there is a link. I'll probably add it as a comment as well for you later. And that link goes to a place where you can pop your email address in if you want to make sure that you're getting all the replay links sent to your inbox for the series. If you want to get any extra resources, like today I will be sending out some worksheets that go with this class in case you didn't want to scribble everything down quickly. Guided audios, those sorts of things. If you want to get all of that, then just go over to the link and pop an email address in there so it'll all go through your inbox. Okay, that is definitely all the housekeeping. So let us get started. So today's workshop is all around crafting a powerful manifestation goal. Okay, and we do this today as the portal opens. So happy Lion's Gate, the portal opens today. And I'm going to assume everyone knows what the Lion's Gate is, the astrological events and the numerological events. If you don't, let me know and I'll post it in the group. But this is the start of Sirius coming into alignment with the sun. So Sirius is known as the spiritual sun, is coming in alignment with the solar sun, in alignment with Earth. It's also in alignment with the pyramids at Giza, who were presumably built to align to this time, which was known as the flooding of the Nile season. So there's a whole heap of things going on, but this is the start of that astrological alignment all coming into being. And with that brings a whole heap of different energies. Now, we're also in Leo. As of now, the sun has moved into Leo, so it's bringing forth all the Leo energy. And when you combine that with the Sirius energy, and I talked about this in the Substack post recently, so I probably don't need to go into it all, but you get a colliding of all those energies and an amplification, and we can make use of that. Now, even if you're not sure, you're like, I don't know about the astrology stuff and the numerology stuff, there's one other really important reason that I want to bring to the table here, and it's the magical theory, the Wiccan theory, if you like, because they're not lion gates per se, but millions of people across thousands of years have claimed this period of time, this astrological event, as sacred, as powerful, and they have performed ritual and act of some form in relationship to this or during this period, in service to goals. Okay, now from a metaphysics perspective, that continual laying down of layers of power and intention over thousands of years, right, across this one period of time, leaves an energetic groove in the fabric of reality, if you like, that is seeped or soaked in power. Okay, so it is a really powerful time to piggyback on that, to leverage that, and use this as a time when you can do some really powerful energetic work. Okay. Okay, so today we're going to talk about, well, how do we craft something that's really powerful, something that's clean, something that is on the new paradigm, so in alignment with the principles for the new 5D timeline as opposed to the old 3D. If you're still manifesting the 3D path, then you're going to keep manifesting on the 3D timeline, which is actually not what you want to be doing now. We want to be jumping to the 5D, and that's conscious choice and practice. And so all of this portal period is about making sure you're on that, manifesting on the 5D. So that's what we're going to make sure that our manifestation is crafted that way. Now then you can take this manifestation and you can use whatever energetic tools you like with it. You can use any rituals that you like with it. You can, if you don't know any rituals, then pop it in the group. There's a lot of wisdom in the group, so people can share favorite rituals if they like. I'm also happy to. I probably should do a video at some point on the structure and metaphysics of rituals and how to pick a good one. But you can use this manifestation for anything, for whatever you want to do, knowing that it's crafted and packaged and set up optimally. Okay, so that's our goal. So for today, you will need a manifestation goal in mind. It will be helpful to have something in mind while you work through this. It will just save you time to be writing some notes as you go about this so that you can craft it. So you don't have to have it definitively worked out. You'll actually get there through today's live stream. But you want to have a goal in mind. Okay, so an area that would be helpful for you. Okay, I think that's about everything. So let's get started into the actual main stuff. Okay, remember, ask questions as you go, okay? That will be helpful for the whole group, I am sure. Okay, so let's give the manifestation process a little bit of context so we know where we're coming from. I can give you the visuals so you're going, oh, okay, I understand what's going on here. So the first thing, and this is all going to be from the metaphysics, the energetic principles, the Wiccan theory, okay? It's not necessarily the law of attraction 101 stuff. I'm going to assume everyone here knows that. So I'm just going to keep moving on past that. Okay. So the first thing that I want everyone to consider or be aware of is the idea of the currents of creation, right? And so what are the currents of creation? Currents of creation are energetic life force movement. Moving, it's in constant momentum, it's in constant flow. The Taoists would call it the Tao, right? It's what they're trying to come into harmony with. It's the life flow, the movement, moving through the universe, okay? Now it moves through us, it moves around us. It does actually, if we work with it, move it through our body, okay? And it's always present, always moving. Like right now, for the sensitive among you, now that you know, if I asked you to tap into it, can you just feel, if it's almost like water when you feel it, but it's got eddies and currents and it's rippling and moving. Just see if you can take a breath and drop down into your pelvis, down into the seat of your power. Just slow yourself down and then expand your awareness out and just see if you can get just a general, subtle sense of the energies of life just moving all the time. Those are the currents of creation. Now, everyone's working with them. Everyone on the planet is working with them, not always optimally and not always consciously, but they're a co-creative force and they're moving energy all the time and bringing reality into form over and over and over again. And it's bringing reality into form and creating that expansion of the universe, because the universe is still expanding. It's expanding through those of us who are currently in incarnation on that front wave, manifesting, birthing, experience, thoughts, beliefs, reality, all of that, and the currents of creation are flowing through all of that and continuing to expand out the universe, okay? So I'm not going to go too far down that, but I want you to understand the currents of creation are here and we're working with them every time we manifest, It's the main predominant fuel source that we're working with. It's present anyway. What you want to do is your manifestation, you want to think of it as a lens that you're putting into the currents of creation. And the currents of creation are going to, providing the lens, the manifestation is crafted well and is made of the right material, which is our setup that we're doing today. It can flow through your lens, your manifestation. And as it does this, it flavors and shapes reality coming out the other side. And there's your manifestation over here, right? So you need to understand that your manifestations are lenses you're popping into the stream. And you want the stream to flow through it. Okay, so the currents of creation move at different speeds, right? And it might be why some people also feel a lot of fluidity around time, right? Which is another discussion. But like the currents of creation move at different speeds in different people's lives at different times. So it's very variable. And one of the things that increases the speed and flow on this plane of existence, which is one of active principle, is action. And action is like a two-way energetic exchange. Now the action can be very small, right? But it should be conscious, it should be intentional, and ideally consistent, because you want to keep the speed moving if you want speedy manifestation, right? So that's the first thing. Know that the currents move at different speeds. Think of it like water, because energy and water share a lot of similar principles. Okay, the second thing you want to know is that, like water, the currents of creation will slow down when they meet a lot of resistance, murky muddiness. Right? Then the water's going to navigate the mud. That's going to slow the stream down. So in the energetic principles, what is this mud? It's all of our thoughts and beliefs and doubts and worries and fears and sufferings and all the other things that we'll be talking about today. That will slow down. The currents of creation have got to go through all of that to get out the other side, right? So that will slow it down. Now, still pools, currents of creation can end up with still pools of stagnation, and like water, that tends to lead to dis-ease, right? The currents of creation are going to find a way to move. That's paramount, right? So the last thing I want you to know is too that the currents of creation are all about keeping life flowing, the ongoingness of life. And like water, it will take the path of least resistance. If your manifestation that you're popping down in that stream is a big solid boulder full of resistances and all sorts of subconscious blocks and all sorts of craziness, the currents of creation will just go around it and keep going. And if you've ever had a manifestation not come into being, that's most likely what's happened. The level of resistance at some point was too high, and the currents of creation are just going to go round it in the stream at that point. Okay, so that's why I wanted to give you that analogy, so you have an understanding overall of what we're doing. Okay, so that's the currents of creation. Again, if you've got any questions, or you've never thought about the currents of creation, or you just want to make a comment, go for it. Let me know what you think. Okay, now, excuse me. Let's move on to the next piece, which is the last little bit that I want you to know about manifestation for today as we move into crafting. Manifestation has balances. Now, there's the paradoxes of manifestation and there's the balances of manifestation. We'll be covering both over this portal period. But I want to just briefly mention the balances of manifestation. Okay, so the balances, there are two spectrums, yeah? And there are 4 poles. Now, your job is to know where you need to be on the spectrum for each of these and be kind of sitting there at the right time for optimal, speedy manifestation, okay? So what are these 2 spectrums and the 4 poles? Okay, the first spectrum is a spectrum with at one pole doing and at one pole being. Okay, so doing and being, and we're going to go into this one in particular a lot more. I think it's Wednesday, so I'm not going to go in for too long, but there's that spectrum moving between your magnetic state that you're holding and your action state that's keeping the currents of creation flowing smoothly. okay? And then the other pole and the other spectrum that you've got going is crafting and receiving. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that today, obviously, because today we're crafting. Now, this spectrum is interesting because a lot of people focus their manifestation efforts on the crafting piece, right? And a lot of what you see out on the web will be the rituals to birth your manifestation, and they're all the crafting side. Okay, the vision boards and the affirmations, all that sort of piece, they're the crafting, mostly the crafting, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. We need the crafting, but the crafting is 20% of a manifestation journey. The receiving the manifestation is the 80%. And that is where typically all the snafu and chaos comes from. But that is the piece that you really want to get down. It's actually receiving. When you, let me explain this quickly for the manifestation. What happens when you craft something and you do a ritual and you set and you birth it energetically? It is done, it is done, it is done, right? Where is it done? Where did you just birth it? You birthed it on a higher dimensional plane, usually 7, the 7th dimension, but it could be higher, 7, 9, 11's up in the Akashic plane, so but usually 7, right? So it is done up there, dimensionally speaking, okay? And it is done. You did birth it, right? And depending on how well you formed the container and how much energy you raised and how you cast the vision and all the rest of that, the nature of your ritual, how powerfully you birthed it on the 7th is a consideration, right? But you birthed it on a higher dimensional plane. Now, it is done, right? But it's not here on the 3rd dimension in form yet. And to receive the manifestation, your manifestation has to go from a very fine energetic frequency from the 7, has to move down in density, down, 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 all the dimensions to land into physical form in the 3rd, which is a journey downwards in density, okay? Now, what brings it down, okay? The currents of creation are going to help you. So, and you have small inspired action steps, a little bit of consistency, moving it down, and you have a huge amount of magnetic beingness pulling your manifestation down to you. That is receiving the manifestation. Now, you also want a nice clear path between here it is up here and here I am down here. That clean path will allow it to land into form. That's the sticking place where you don't always receive your manifestation. We're going to go into so much detail around that over the portal period, so that's where we're going to focus after we've crafted. But that piece, if you want the path to be as clear as possible, the clearer it is, the faster, the easier, and the fuller the manifestation will be, moving from here down to here. Okay, so that's enough manifestation theory to get us started. So let's now talk about a couple shifts that we want to make to all our manifestations. So here I want you to start thinking about that manifestation goal, and we want to think about the new paradigm perspectives on manifestation, and in particular the 2 resistances, or the 2 main resistances. And these are the 2 main resistances that make it challenging for it to move from here down to here, okay? Now, we'll work on these much more fully during the receiving period, but you want to nail them as much as possible in the crafting so that your manifestation is crafted without any of this present, okay? Because you want the new paradigm version. New paradigm version is faster, and it's got to get to the 5D, not the 3D, so dimensionally less far to go as well. The 5D operates in a finer state. 5D's operating also with a different experience of reality. We could talk about all that another time. I've talked about it many times in the group, but I know it's been a while. Let me know if you want me to talk about all that stuff again, right? But we want to really be manifesting here on the 5D. You want to be bringing in your new earth vision, whatever that is for you. And we can talk collectively, but we're talking personally right now, okay? So, with that in mind, we want to be crafting these manifestations 5D. Okay, so the first resistance that I want to bring up out of the 2 of them is the issue of working with unity consciousness. Right, now that could mean a lot of things to a lot of people, and the only thing that I want everyone to think about right here is as above, so below. In the Wiccan theory, as within, so without. Right? Unity starts within. Okay? Now, doesn't look like anything like unity externally yet, right? Internally, you cannot be divided against yourself. You are seeking wholeness, you are seeking unity within. And that is a big topic that we could go into. I could do a whole teaching series just on that, right? So we won't go down the rabbit hole on that, but there is one piece that I want to bring to the manifestation. You actually want to be working with internal unity, right? One of the biggest resistances that people have is having internal conflict with themselves around their manifestations. It's very common, okay? They want success and all this money, X amount of dollars, but they're also really worried that will take them away from their family or their children, and they're totally not up for that, or they're going to be burnt out because it's going to be so much work. And there's this mismatch, right? Or they want to be, I don't know, really beautiful and successful and popular on the dating scene, but they actually really want to feel safe and they don't want too much attention, right? There's like so many examples that you could picture coming up in your mind. So think about your manifestation goal for a second. We're going to come down to you now, right? When you have those internal incongruencies, there's a part of you that's worried, and that part of you is probably valid, right? Like it's in alignment with values that you hold dear, otherwise it wouldn't be coming up for you. So I want you right now to think about your manifestation goal and then tune into the part of you. We're not bypassing any of this, okay? Lots of times people try to just bypass this and focus their willpower over here. No. Okay, for the moment, I just want you to move to the part of you, the voice inside, that's legitimately worried, that's not so sure this is a good idea for any reason. Now, it's not the whole truth, right? I'm not saying that this part is right. This part holds a part of truth for you, okay? And your job right now in this moment is to hear it. So, if you've got paper and pen, that would be ideal. Take a moment now and just jot down what is the worried part of you actually worried about with this manifestation. Nothing is too small, nothing is too trivial, nothing is too silly. Okay, it is actually important that you understand where that internal resistance is going to kick in, because that worried part of you, that facet of you in your psyche, is going to, the closer you get to your manifestation, the more freaked out it's going to get. It's going to broadcast a freaked out, unsafe, I'm not happy, whoa, stop energy, and it's going to take out your manifestation. And if it's strong enough, it will just take it out completely, but it's certainly going to slow it down. So we do not ignore it. So take a moment now and just listen, just tune in and notice what you're hearing as the worried parts. Sorry, I'm getting a whole heap of messages this morning. Just ignore them all. Okay. So it's very normal. Internal congruence is normal. Anyone here who's a coach knows that you spend heaps of time with your client helping them become congruent on the inside on what's going on for them, right? So this is not an uncommon piece. So just even if you think, no, I'm totally congruent, just notice, just check for any little niggles and pop them down. Just some bullet points. Okay, and here's a couple things that while you're just tuned into this worried part of you, first of all, just send this worried part love and reassurance. It's okay, I'm hearing you, I'm not ignoring you. It's okay, we're going to make this work so it works for you too, okay? Just set its mind at ease. Okay, now, when you think about your manifestation goal and you think about what the worried part of you is saying, does your manifestation have any conditions that you want to put on it that will help this part of you feel okay, right? Do you want to put some clauses or some conditions on it? At the crafting point, this is the time you want to do that, okay? So there's a whole heap about knowing what and why, but leave the how to the universe, and I'm in full agreement with that. But for this point here, while you're crafting, craft precisely with these things in mind, okay? So is there some sort of tweak or clarification or refinements that need to be made, that you can make wholeheartedly? I'm not asking you to change your manifestation. We're going to work with the worried part. We're going to help it become congruent as we move through the receiving phase. But right now, can you craft anything that helps here? Notice what comes up, jot it down. And the last thing here is, I want you to consider when you're thinking about this, okay, well, what does this mean, this worried part? What does this mean? How can I solve this? And it might mean there's an area of growth that you're going to need to undertake here. Right? That's going to, it might be you are going to undertake it, it might need the part is going to undertake it, but just notice what area of growth you think is actually going to be wrapped up in this. And this might actually even be surprising to you. You might already have not considered that in your manifestation, like, oh, I actually hadn't even considered I was going to dive into this sort of area. Okay, but this is an important piece so that we're creating wholeness and unity. All parts of us are on board with the manifestation, and that will make a big difference into your energetic congruency as you move through. Okay, that is the first resistance that I wanted to bring to the table today. I'm moving fast so that I get all the teaching in. Conscious that I haven't been live for so long that none of you know when I'm going live. So that's okay. You're probably all going to be on replay. You can pause, okay? And the other thing is I am going to email out all of the bits and bobs from today in a worksheet in an email. So if you want that, because I'm like talking really quickly, then go pop your email in over on the link in the description. Okay, so the second resistance that I want to talk about today is the idea of building suffering into our manifestations. Now, when I say this, you're probably like, what? Why would I ever consider doing that? Right? No one plans to do that. But here's the deal. For the last 1,000, 2,000, maybe even a bit longer years, the Earth timeline has chosen to learn, grow, and incite change through a pathway of suffering. And if we look historically over our timeline, we will clearly see that to be true, right? Now, in the new timelines and in 5D, suffering is no longer a primary motivator for inciting change or transformation. Okay? This is important to understand. So, what does that mean? We're trying to now birth our heaven on earth. Right? Our 5D and our ascensional process is not about going to a mythical plane. It's not about leaving our bodies. It's about bringing our soul into our bodies in form, and it's about birthing this idea of the heaven on earth, the new earth, right? Now, your heaven on earth, whatever that is for you, needs to be around being pulled forwards, upwards, expanding via inspiration, service, contribution, whatever it is for you, what lights you up. It's this pathway, not running away from pain, fear, unhappiness, not enoughness, all of those pieces. Now, at this point, we have 3D, 4D, and 5D timelines always present on the planet right now, and you are probably sliding between all three of them even in a given day, right? And if you're sensitive to it and you hear me say it, you're like, oh yeah, I can totally feel which timeline I'm experiencing at any given point in the day. Now, so given that we're in a very state of flux on the planet right now, it's still normal or common for us to come up with our initial manifestation goal from a place of, I need to get away from this, which I don't want. It is causing me pain. I don't like it. I don't want it. Okay? Now that is actually a commitment or an addiction or a focus on an attachment to suffering. Okay, and we're using the Buddhist philosophy here, by the way, these attachments to suffering. Okay, and this work, a bit of a detour here, this particular piece of the work today comes from Green Tara, who's a Buddhist goddess, and she teaches in the priestess path of Shandara. The priestess is mentor with her for a month, and this is part of her teaching, so it sounds a bit Buddhist in philosophy, right? But this is an important piece to understand. Even if your seed is, I no longer want to, I'm stressed, I don't know how to pay my bills, or I'm not well, I need to heal this health condition, right? All of those pieces, 100% valid, but know that that is the seed which is coming from a place of suffering, right? We want to change that now while we're crafting, so that we aren't crafting from a 3D timeline of suffering. Does that make sense? I'm hoping so. Super weird that I don't have anyone live with me. I'm just going to assume that this is good. I've been only live teaching for many years now, and this not talking to anyone feels odd, but that's okay. Okay, so we want to craft our manifestation free from all of that. Now, you might be thinking here, oh, I don't do the suffering piece. I am not attached to or committed to suffering in any form. That's not me, right? And when Green Tara first shared this teaching with me, I was like, yeah, no, I've done that. I don't do the suffering thing, right? I guarantee you, I would be gobsmacked if someone in this group couldn't find an attachment to suffering, right? I've taught this for years, and all of my students find tons when they realize what they're looking for. But let me give you just a little list, random list. This is not the list. This is a random list off the top of my head list that are things that are actually attachments to suffering, to a commitment to suffer for the manifestation, or that for having the manifestation, or for getting the manifestation, right? Okay, so here is just a whole random list, right? Replaying events of the past over and over and over and obsessing about them, going around in your circle, having conversations with yourself about it, right? That's committing to suffering. Holding beliefs that whatever responsibilities you have in life are hard and unending, right? Doing things but resenting that you're doing them. Not communicating clearly, even if you're trying to avoid conflict, which is usually when you're not communicating clearly. Telling yourselves that you aren't good enough in any form. Right? Oh, I'm not ready for this yet, or I don't know this yet, or why I could never do that, blah, blah, blah. It's the subtle ones. I think everyone in this group is past the biggies, right? Well, most of you, hopefully, right? Some of you are probably still working on core wounds, as we all are, right? But it's in the nuances that I want you to look here. Perfectionism. Oh my goodness, this is one for me, right? Perfectionism, where we just have to get everything absolutely perfect. Believing we have to do it all ourselves, that we have to do it better, that we have to do it faster. It's all commitments to suffering. Believing we have to do our time, that it's going to be a hard slog, that we've got to put our big girl panties on and really suck it up. Okay? Believing that it will be hard to achieve a goal. Creating rigid and inflexible conditions on what it can and can't look like, what should and should not be happening in every moment of your day, right? Believing that things are on hold, including your happiness, until a goal is met, right? Oh, I'll relax when, I'll take a holiday when, I'll spend time with my family when, all of that sort of stuff, right? Deferring things off. Not following through on repeated divine guidance. You know how many people I work with who know how to ask for divine guidance, know how to ask for it, and even know how to receive it and recognize it, and we'll be talking about that this week, right? And don't follow through on it. Over and over again, they just keep asking the same question and keep getting the same answer. We've all done it for a while, right? Like, we've all experienced that, like, I know that that's there, but I don't want to do that, right? Okay, that's an attachment or a commitment to suffer for the manifestation, right? And then, of course, on the flip side, beating yourself up for not following through on repeated guidance. Okay? In fact, any forms of blame, shame, or guilt are actually suffering. Okay? Doing short-term solutions that harm us in the long term, refusing to grow or step outside of our comfort zones, being impatient with ourselves for where we're at, limiting ourselves, any and all instances of the blame shame, which I've already talked about, trying to make everyone happy even at the cost of ourselves, and assuming that we know what others think about us. Like assuming, oh, that person thinks this or that. Okay, it's a random list, but it would have given you some ideas on where in your life you might be attached to, committed to, having the habit of suffering. Okay, now I want you to think now about your manifestation goal. And just notice what might kick up immediately in your thoughts. Again, we'll be working on this a lot in the receiving it once it's birthed. But for now, when I say this, what's coming up? Where are you thinking you might be feeling a sense of suffering, a commitment to it, or a pattern of it, living in to get this manifestation or having this manifestation? And just notice what might be kicking up for you. Now this is a big topic, right? This is when I say just do it now quickly, I'm saying lay the seeds now, okay? Because it's a big piece. But notice what you might actually be building in, okay? And you can do that by asking yourself the question when you think about your manifestation goal: what am I making this mean? Or what am I making getting this mean? And notice what comes up there. Okay, I'm going to let you sit with that one. Is there a descriptor or a clarifying statement that you need to change or add to your manifestation that you're crafting here? Notice that. If there is, jot down a few points now. You can clean it up later. Okay, and in the instance that there is something that you feel you're going to have to do, that you're like at this point in time committed to saying, yeah, I'm pretty sure there's no way around this, then how can I relate to this differently? And one of them is I'm choosing to, right? So my youngest at the moment is studying for his driver's license, and he wants to do it today, his exam. And he's studying yesterday on a Sunday, and he's like, oh, I don't want to study. Why am I having to study? I hate studying, la la la. And I was like pausing him and going, do you want your license? He's like, yes. Like, so you're choosing to study. He's like, I said, do you really want to sit the exam tomorrow? He's like, yes, I'm really committed to it. I'm like, so you're choosing to study today for it, right? And it's a subtle distinction, but it actually changes from I'm suffering for this manifestation to I am choosing to be pulled forwards by something that inspires the heck out of me, okay? That's a big topic, but just sit and think about your manifestation goal from that perspective at this point, okay? Okay, I think I'm going to pause there. I'm like, there's no comments yet, and I've been talking for a really long time. Maybe my comments aren't working. If my comments aren't working, and there is someone actually here right now, I will promise look at them all at the end, okay? Okay, so there's a couple more little pieces before we're going to get more questions, right? But again, I want you looking at your manifestation goal from these next two perspectives. And the first one that we're going to focus on here is the idea of do no harm. Okay? Do no harm is a fundamental Wiccan creed. It's not only Wiccan. Well, it's originally Wiccan, but I'm assuming many energy workers would use something around that. The medical practice as a whole has a similar sort of Hippocratic oath as well. So but I'm going to talk from the Wiccan perspective, right? So do no harm. Now, in relationship to manifestation in particular, what does it mean for manifestation? And there are three biggies here that I want to, not biggies, but things that I really want you to look at your manifestation through this lens and ensure that it's clean. Okay, so the first is, and do no harm, that it doesn't cause emotional, spiritual, or physical harm. This is probably the easiest one to make sure of, right? Now, it doesn't matter if you believe the world would be better off without Bill Gates or Donald Trump or a random politician or whatever, right? Doesn't matter if it's for the greater good, okay? We cannot cause emotional, spiritual, or physical harm. Okay, so that one should be fairly clear cut. I just put it out there. 2, it doesn't impede another's free will choice. Okay, now you may feel like I'm at home with young children and I can't really earn an income, and my partner, he just needs a new job that earns more money, right? But your husband loves the job he's in and he does not want the job that's going to pay a lot of money and take 80 hours a week or whatever it is. Okay, trying to manifest him that job is against his free will choice. Okay, ethically that's an Also, the whole conversation of manifesting for another person is a whole conversation in and of itself, and for now I really encourage you avoid it. Okay, it's not really a good path to go down, and there's a lot of nuance around it. So do you need to tweak your manifestation? It is okay to manifest abundance into your house and into your family without trying to craft a specific job for your husband. Okay, just putting that out there. Now, if he wants to get on board with his own manifestation goal, or he's 100% behind you manifesting the goal, like he's in agreement and gives consent, we're getting into slippery slopes. That's better, right? It'd be even better if he was doing his own, right? But you can't like try and impinge on other people's free will choice, okay? Now that also comes with all souls, including our children, which is freaking frustrating, I know. And most of it is in the wording and your intention, okay? So I want you to think about that. And if you're having a sticking point around it or it feels difficult to you, you can message me privately, you can pop it in the group, we can help you reword it. Okay. Okay, and the third one, it doesn't block someone else's connection to the divine. Okay. Now, I'm going to give you a quick story here. It's actually a weaving story, which weaving's not the main point of it, why I'm sharing it here. Many years ago now, maybe 7 or 8 years ago, my dad got very, very, very sick, and he ended up in the hospital in intensive care, and he had surgery, and then his surgery was going to be fine, so I came home, and then I got a phone call from his doctor at like 9 o'clock at night saying, you know, your dad's developed this horrible condition, and you need to be here as early as possible first thing in the morning, like serious, he might not live long. That didn't work quite like that, but that was the gist of it, right? So this was quite a what the hell, and it was like my dad could die tomorrow, right, sort of thing. So it was a fairly intense situation, and I went and did a weave, right? For the weavers among us, hopefully you know that that's what you should go do. And a weave, I was going to just move the energy through my body, I was going to get myself into a good place. Anyway, in the process of the weave, I rose a lot of energy. As you can imagine, when you're combining a lot of emotional stuff going on and you weave, you're going to raise a huge fuel source, a huge amount of energy. And often we're trying to do that, right, when we weave, because we want to take that energy and cast into our ritual to make our manifestation really freaking powerful, right? Now, in this case, I had a huge amount of raised energy. And so at the end of my weave, I came to the ground and I was thinking about, what am I going to do? And I was obviously going to send that energy to my dad, right? But here's the deal. I got a tick, tick, tick while I was there. It's like, oh, wait a minute. You can't actually send the energy that he's just heal, right? What if that isn't his highest way he's meant to be going right now? What if he is actually meant to be passing and you're going to try and jam that, right? You're going to try and stop that. Now that was hard, right? Like, I want him to heal, right? But free will choice and connection to the divine, I have to really think about that. It's like, of course I want to send him healing. So I sent him all of that energy, and it was a huge amount. Like my whole body was vibrating. And I sent that, I cast that all to him for his highest path, right? My preference was that he be whole and healthy and perfect health and with me for a lot longer, right? But I also had to be like, but if this is your time, then this is to give you the highest, most beautiful passing that could possibly be, right? So it was how I had to, the intention I had to cast with. And in case you're wondering, this is off the do not harm, how that went down, I went to bed that night and I woke up at dawn the next morning. I live out of the city and I had a couple hours drive to the hospital. So I woke up very early because I was like, got to get there as fast as possible. They said ASAP. If you wait till the morning, come as super early. I was like, okay. So I rang the hospital. I rang intensive care when I was getting ready to leave. And they said to me, they have no idea what happened, but in the middle of the night, my dad's blood work did a 180, completely changed. He had no blood poisoning any longer. Everything was fine. They'd taken him out of intensive care and put him into the general ward. So he wasn't even in intensive care anymore. If I was coming in, I had to go somewhere else to find him. And I was just like, whoa. And this was kind of early on in me healing through weaving, right? But it was a very powerful kick in the butt for me to think about, well, what's actually possible, right? Okay, so I tell you that story from the do not harm or do no harm because that one was an extremely hard line for me to walk, right? And he did heal, obviously, right? So he's still with us. All is well. Now, that ties into something I'm going to talk about in a little bit, okay? But it's this or something better. Actually, you know what? I'm going to talk about this or something better now because it worked so well. So we'll just quickly pop it in here. This or something better. You can add that saying, and I want you to add that saying to your manifestation craft. But I want you to authentically mean it. You cannot lie to yourself in these situations, right? So would it be okay if the outcome didn't look exactly like you want? Now, there's a couple things going on when I say that, right? The first is you're checking for how much you're committing around suffering and attachment, around the physical specifics of things, right? So there's a good check. The other thing is you are acknowledging a higher power than yourself. You're not almighty. You don't know what is the best, what is the highest path, right? And are you willing to embrace a co-creative partnership with a higher force? And will you have faith and trust in that power? Okay. And of course, you actually leave room for even more awesomeness than you could possibly have conceived of from your current perspective, which is actually kind of limited, right? So can you authentically mean this or something better? And so that ties in obviously to my dad's story because I did have to say this or something better. I had to be willing that if this was his time, this was his time, right? Okay, so that's all I want to say about do not harm. Pause, have a look at your manifestation goal. Notice anything that might need to be tweaked, changed, polished, upgraded. This is going to be a very long live today. I'm going to try and get to the last bit short. I'm going to shorten it a bit. Okay. Now, the last thing before we do our questions, the final questions, is look at your manifestation goal. And I want to talk briefly about the size and scope of your manifestation and its relationship, or your somatic body's relationship with it. Okay. So your somatic body, your soma, your body, your soma is your physical body, but it's also your emotions, it's your energetics, it's all of the sensation moving inside you, okay? Now, a lot of the times when we're doing somatics, we're focusing on how we feel in the body, okay? Many of you know I have tons of training in somatics, and it always comes in whenever we're doing energy work, okay? It's actually kind of not possible not to. Okay, so when you tune into your somatic body and how you feel, does your soma feel open and safe and lit up around this manifestation? Now, if you have a lot of worried parts, by the way, then your soma's not feeling lit. It's kind of closed. It's kind of anxious, okay? But even if it's an issue of size and scope, is there a part of you that is in doubt or fear or worry or stress or anxiety? Right? Just there'll be a little bit of a heaviness. There'll be a closing down in the system. Just breathe and notice what you feel in your body around your manifestation. Be honest. Your somatic body is always honest with you. Soma is always honest. The mind can tell us all sorts of stories, right? But the soma will be telling you the truth. So are you feeling shut down and stressed and anxious? Or is your soma open, relaxed? Does your soma feel safe? Okay. Now, again, if you're not sure and you want me to go into more detail, let me know in the group. I'm always happy to. But do you need to tweak your manifestation to something where you can get your soma safe? Why would you try to manifest putting hurdles in your path? Okay, this is kind of what, like, and there's a lot of ways that we can expand our soma, for sure. I mean, we can open up and create safety in the soma many ways. Weaving is one of them, but it's certainly not the only one. There are many somatic arts that would help us to regulate our nervous systems, relax our soma into safety, lots of things like that. But for now, and you have to, if you're going to go for something really big that's keeping your soma in a state of lack of safety or shut down or I feel really stressed about this, right? Then you're creating those resistances in the stream that we talked about. And enough of them that the currents of creation are going to go right around the side of the manifestation and just keep going. Okay, so be honest with yourself. Where's your soma? Do you need to tweak anything? You may also go, well, I'm willing to tweak it a bit, but I really do want this. And then you know you're going to be working with your soma during the receiving piece to stay in a state of regulated safety. And we can talk about that across the portal period, obviously. But for now, do you want to change anything about your manifestation, the scope, the size? You really do want your body, for fast, rapid manifestation, you want your body to feel safe. Okay? So just notice and check in around that. Okay, so I'm going to give you a couple of questions now. These are going to come in the form of email for those people who want to do this later as a worksheet. Okay, I'll do that after I get off the live today and send that out to everyone who said they were interested in getting all the extra stuff out of their lives. The link's in the description. Okay, so how do we craft our manifestation? I've already given you heaps of things hopefully you're thinking about. Now when you start to write out your vision, and I encourage you to be clear on your vision, clear, use word choice, write it, right? Spells are just words with clarity and intention, creating containers. We'll get to that some other time, right? But what we want to do is write out our manifestation. Let's make sure that we're writing from 5D and not 3D. Okay, how do we do that? I'm going to give you the abbreviated form here, and I'm going to go in depth for those people with the email stuff who think they might want to be guided a little bit more strongly. I will give you way more guidance, okay? So I'm giving you the cliff notes here because some of you are already like, yeah, I know how to do this. I don't want to spend too long going through stuff everyone knows. Okay, so the first piece here is you do not want to craft from that part of you that's in suffering, that's in fear, the lower self, right? You don't want to craft your manifestation when you're sitting on that 3D timeline, unless you want to keep crafting the 3D forwards, which presumably you don't, okay? So we want to take the seed that may have come from suffering, that's fine, but we want to take the seed up to a higher dimensional perspective. We want to take it up to 5D in this case, and we want to craft the vision from there. So we want to evolve it out of the 3D and into the 5D. Okay, so what I want you to do is I want you to make sure to move yourself to 5D. There's a lot of methods to do this. I'm going to give you two ideas. The first one is you want to be in conversation with your higher self, or a form of divinity, or if you read the Akashic records, your record keepers, right? Take the seed of the manifestation to the higher self, okay? Or the Akashic records, or any form of divinity, a power higher than yourself. Elevate. And you are going to ask these questions from there. Right? So it may be your highest self answering. It may be the Akashic Records answering, right? So that's one, okay? The other thing that you can do is you can move 3D to 5D via the heart space. Now, I was thinking about this morning and I was like, well, I could guide everyone on the live, but I'm not going to now. What I'm going to do is do a guiding process for this, and send it to anyone who wants it via email so that we don't take all that time here today. Okay, but what that means is your 3D physical heart. It's your physical heart in your body. The heart is a nexus, a portal point for jumping dimensions and jumping timelines, right? So when you come into your physical heart, you can actually move dimensionally to your 5D heart. We call that heart temple for weavers. You're going to be familiar with that. For my weavers here, you probably know this from your weaving manifestation rituals in your training that you've already had. You want to manifest from 5D. So come into Heart Temple. Now, for those of you who are like, I don't know what that is, you could get the guided process, that's fine. And the other thing that you can do is take a moment to come into your heart, and you want to come into heart congruence. What do I mean by that? Think of the qualities of the heart and just breathe with them for like 3 or 4 minutes, just breathing. So your heart qualities, they have masculine and feminine. The feminine qualities are things like nurturance and love, joy, right? But you've also got the masculine qualities of bravery and passion, conviction, right? They're all heart qualities. You can probably think of many more yourself. Just sit and be in your heart qualities, breathing, right? Nice, steady. I would do a normal 5-5 breath. What that means, a 5-5 connected breath means 5 breaths in, 5 breaths out, and no gaps between the in-breath and the out-breath. There's a lot of breath patterns, but this is the one I'm going to recommend for now. You're just creating flowing rhythm. What we're doing here, breath is one of those pillars that we interact with energy with. Breath is one of the 5. So the breath will direct the energy in our bodies, right? It's not the only way to do it, obviously, but it's one of the 5. So let's talk about it now. So you're creating rhythm, equality, you're creating this consistent flow, you're getting the energy moving around your body with that connected breath. And then you're sitting in your heart, just breathing in and out all the qualities. What do I mean by that? Bring a quality to mind that you have a little bit of access to, could just be a seed, and remembering it from the past, even if you don't feel it now. Go through and remember all the times when you felt that, right? Or all the instances you've seen of other people having it, whatever it is, as long as you can connect to it and then feel the quality. So it's not a mental thing. We use the mental memories to get us to the fuel source, which is the feeling state, the somatic magic piece of it. So sit with the heart qualities, just moving through them. You can move through several. You don't have to stay on one. You can just keep moving through them with the connected breath. And that is going to shift you over into a heart space that is more optimal for this process. Okay, I will guide that through on an audio and guide everyone into Heart Temple for those who want it, and I'll send it out via email. Okay, so let's assume now that you're in the Akashic Records, you're talking to your higher self, or you're in heart space. One of those two, or you're connected to the divine somehow, and you're no longer really experiencing 3D, you're kind of experiencing 5D. So here are the questions, and I'm going to say these sort of quickly, knowing that you're going to sit and reflect on them. Okay, so what inspires me about this goal, this manifestation, beyond just moving away from suffering? Okay, how can I elevate this manifestation to a higher, more, ooh, yeah, this is 5D, right? So rather than healing a condition, there's nothing wrong with that, right? We all want to heal. You might want to manifest radiant, vibrant health. That's more inspirational. That's more, oh yeah, pull me forwards than I've got to heal, right? Which has a sense of lack to it, and like I'm not okay now, which is actually a form of suffering, right? So that's an example, right? How can we elevate it? What inspires me? We want to move out and into the inspiration. If you're in heart space and with higher self present, you're going to get a different perspective on this manifestation, and that's what we want, okay? Next up, what do I want to feel as a daily experience when I manifest this? What internal state do I want to be feeling? Okay, we'll be using this a lot in our energetic apothecary over the next portal period, right? So, and the energetic apothecary is something I'm going to talk about later, but you need it, so focus on it now. What do you want to be experiencing as an internal state, a felt state. Okay? And when you picture yourself having the manifestation, notice too what your internal state is. Because it could be a little bit different than what you want. Like you could be, oh yeah, I also feel like this, right? I feel creative, or oh I do, I feel really lit up, or I feel really accomplished, or whatever, right? Just notice the internal felt sensations. Okay, next one. What will having this manifestation give me in the external form? This is probably the easy one. You guys probably have some ideas on what that's actually going to look like. The finger pointing, I could point a finger at it, look like. And you do want that for clarification and to know, partly so you know, how do I know the manifestation's here? Okay, there's a lot of pieces about why I'm asking you this question, so trust me. But it's the one that you probably have already given some thought to. And then off the back of that question, so what's really important about this manifestation? Just notice. Right now, you may even just have one word popping up as I'm saying these. That's fine. Write them down. Okay? Then the next question, what needs of mine is this manifestation meeting? We all have needs. Needs are valid, right? We need to belong. We need to feel safe. We need companionship. We need things, and that is 100% okay. So what needs is this manifestation meeting? Because you wouldn't want it if it wasn't meeting a need. Actually get down to the need level of it, beyond the external glitzy, whatever it is. 2 more questions and then we're done. So what values of mine am I choosing to live into by manifesting this? Right? You all have values. People who've been in this group a while, we've done value oracle decks together, all sorts of stuff, right? So even if you haven't done that, you probably have values that you can think of. So go ahead and have a think now about your manifestation. What values are you expressing or living into or expanding into by manifesting this? This matters, okay? And once you've got a few of those, then the last question that I want you to think about is, which of these values, and it might be a different value, notice, it might be a value that you realize you're going to cultivate while undertaking the process of receiving the manifestation, okay? So it could be either of these, one that you hope to get at the end, like you're going to be expressing, or one that you realize you're going to be exploring during the getting of the manifestation, okay? Which of these values do I feel would also be a powerful support for the collective right now? What can I offer the collective vibrationally as I bring forwards my manifestation? So notice what that is and write it. We're gonna talk more about how to bring higher service into anything that you're manifesting, but this is a piece of it, okay? And you might think on the surface, like let's say you're manifesting health because you want to feel safe and peaceful, right? And you're like, oh yeah, the collective, we need health in the collective, and we need safety and we need peace. Yeah, absolutely. When you think about it, you realize, well, you know what, probably one of the biggest things, the biggest values of mine that I'm going to be exploring in this is trust, is my relationship with trust as I go through bringing this into form. And then it's like, well, can the collective use trust, right? Like, I don't know, I'm putting this out there to you. You'll know what it is for you. Everyone's manifestation is different. As you've seen, everyone's soma is different. Like, this is why manifestation is a very personal process. But notice what that is that you want to also be able to do some higher service work in for the collective. Now, I'm going to talk about it in another live, so I'm not going to go into it here, but it's simple ways to do it, and by bringing in some higher service work, you actually bring your personal manifestation faster, much faster. You're just using a lot more energy. I'll explain it another time, but know that that's one that you don't want to miss. Okay. So those are the questions you want to be looking at. Now, hopefully you've been considering your manifestation from a whole new light. And the last thing that we're going to talk about, and the last question that I want you to consider is the concept of energetic exchange and flow. Okay, So this is, again, the energetics, the metaphysics in manifestation. And we want to create movement in energy. Energy wants to move, it wants to flow all the time, it doesn't like to sit still, right? And so we actually want to, in our manifestations, facilitate movement, because we're trying to birth from the higher planes into the lower planes. We want movement. We want movement. We want lots of movement. We want fast movement, right? But we want movement. So how are we going to create movement besides the action, which we'll talk more about as we move along, right? But how are we going to create that movement? One of the powerful things that always happens in Wiccan and magic work is we create space, internal space for the new to come in. Nature and energy, they don't do voids, right? So when you take something out, you leave space, energy is going to rush to fill that space, right? Now, and this is why, when people keep clearing and healing, right? And then they just leave gaps behind, which I would never do, by the way, as a healer. Energy has to come back and fill the void. Now, you want to intentionally fill it, and you will when you do the somatic magic work with me, so don't worry about that. But if you didn't and you just left a hole there, then if you left even a tiny residue of anything behind that has a certain frequency, the energy will just fill back in to match that frequency again. And this is how we get in those weird, funky, bloody healing loops where I cleared that, why is it back? I cleared that, why is it back, right? Okay, so it was a bit of a detour, but right, when we create space, we create a void, and in can come our manifestation. We create that vacuum effect and we pull stuff forwards. Okay, so when you release space, you bring in the new. So here's the question, what are you willing to release in service to this work, to this manifestation? Okay. Now, what you release, this will always create room for the internal transformation. If you have never manifested whatever it is you're trying to manifest, if you haven't yet created it on 3D, then an internal transformation will precede the external expression. Another live, right? But know that this, what am I need to release, is part of that. Okay, so what do I need to release in service of this work? What am I willing to let go energetically to create space? Now, this could be a thought, a belief, a habit, a pattern. It could be something very specific. It could be a situation, right? You want to allow this to bubble up from the higher self, from the 5D perspective, right? But what am I willing to release in service to this manifestation? Build that into the vision. When you do your manifestation ritual, whatever your Lionsgate's ritual is, you want to release in service to, you want to have this or something better crafted into the statement. All the work that we've done today. Okay, that was a huge amount in this live. This will be the biggest live of the session. At least I'm hoping it will be the biggest live of the session. There was a lot in this. What you want to do now is spend the next 24, 48 hours crafting your manifestation, however it is that you want, with all of these guidelines in place so that you're crafting to the higher timeline, in new paradigm, making sure it's stripped of those resistances so that you're going to have potent manifestation, so that when you pop that lens inside the currents of creation, you've got really awesome flow and really powerful higher timeline coming out the other side. Okay, so go ahead and craft your modified goal, your evolution, your evolved manifestation. You can use whatever Lionsgate ritual you like. You can do it whenever you want. Stay up to date with the lives that are happening here, because all of this information is so relevant across this period. But do the ritual when you feel ready, okay? As we move through, we'll be working on all of the facets. So the Lionsgate ritual, as you can see, is one little piece. We're now prepped for it. We're all ready for it. We can do it. And then we have all those poles that I talked about, all the pieces of the somatic magic to receive it, to work with our energetic apothecary. All of those pieces are coming. Okay. So I think that's all I need to say. Pick your ritual. Be ready to go whenever you feel right. For the weavers on the call here today, you have two options for rituals. You have a Lionsgate ritual, specific Lionsgate's ritual in alumni. And you also have your standard manifestation ritual from your level 1 when you were initiated as a weaver, your training. So you can use either of those rituals if you would like a ritual, a weaving ritual, obviously. Okay, the other thing I would say to weavers is whenever we're manifesting, we want to just have a good, solid weaving practice going. Think of it like your yoga practice. You want your weaving practice, right? Why? Well, you know, I'm just refreshing your minds. You want your flow state. Remember, when we weave, we're creating huge flow states energetically through our body. We're expanding our energetic capacity, our soma, balancing and regulating our nervous system. We're creating a lot of movement, which is clearing and releasing the things that are not in service to the work. They're basically supporting all the work that we're doing here, right? We're radically speeding up the movement of the whole manifestation process, along with balancing our system and setting our frequency, our tones, everything we need. So those basic weaves, just our really short, standard, foundational, hygienic weaves, our energy weaves, right? Those are great for creating our whitewater rapids of manifestation, which we'll talk about more towards the end for the non-weavers. You're like, I don't know what that is, but for weavers, now as the portal opens, if you haven't been weaving lately, I highly encourage a weave. I highly encourage, even for the next 2 weeks, a daily weave. Just one of the small ones, just a 5-10 minute one is perfect. Okay, everyone, that was a huge live. It will be the largest one. There's a lot of theory in today, but I wanted to set you up to craft your manifestation. Our next live on Wednesday, we'll start to move on from all the loops I opened here. We're moving on. We'll keep going. You can see that in the events section of the group and also in the pinned area at the top of the group. So if you go to any of them, you'll see all the training events and what's going to be in them all, kind of loosely, because if anyone has questions, I will add them to the live streams. Okay, so ask your questions here underneath. That's 100% okay. If you have a question on the events, like you can see with the live topic and you already have a question, go ahead and ask it ahead of time and I'll try to bring it into the class. Okay, I think that's it for today. Again, if you want the audio and the worksheet and stuff, just grab the email rather than me droning on here in the group. I will send it all to you and you can have it at your leisure. Okay, it's so nice to be back here in the group with you all. I'm so honored that you've stayed and that you're back with me. So much love to you all, and I'll talk to you soon. Mwah. Happy Lionsgate.